But gas development here can be a catastrophe in the making. Toxic chemicals and methane gas seep into drinking water. And now, experts fear something worse: radioactive radium in waste products. The gas business may be booming, but at what price for people?
What SWN has been given to explore and whatnot, big chunk of our province, 1/7. I started really questioning whether or not that was a transformation that I wanted my beautiful pastoral, rural areas to go through. Because the pictures that I've seen of what these drill pads look like and what the landscape looks like after the industry is done with it, I know myself, I don't want it for this province, but that's me. We're here tonight to give another side of the story. Because what we're noticing is the industry, of course, is very wealthy and can do big newspaper spreads, commercials, can put money forth to do studies for focus groups, can spend all kinds of money to try and sway us. So all we've got are our little groups that are getting larger and larger all the time, all across the province. I was asked a very good question. I was asked if industry had been invited to present tonight, and I said no. They have far more opportunity to give their side of things than we do. Something that I'm hearing from a lot of people, they're reading the industry side and the government side and how they're presenting the information, and they're saying, you know, this doesn't sound so bad. And I thought, you know, frankly, if I just listen to the information that SWN is putting out to the public, and I've had conversations with Tom Alexander, and he's a very charming man and a very soothing man, and if I just took what he said, I would go, yes, why not? But I've also looked into reliable sources like our own Dr. David Suzuki, who has said that hydraulic fracturing contaminates water. And I think his name is pretty golden for most of us in Canada. Dr. Anthony Ingraffia, who has his PhD in rock fracturing mechanics, 33 years of experience, can talk to the layperson. I've watched his videos and I've read some of his papers, and I'm thinking, you are a gifted teacher, because you are presenting information in a way that I can understand it. I am no science person. And on the economy side of things, there's a Dr. Jeanette Barth who has analyzed the industry. She's looked at Pennsylvania and basically the bottom line after her study, and she's one of these people, she actually studies economic models, and so she shows all how her data was collected and how it was analyzed. And she said, bottom line, communities where shale gas drilling has taken place are worse off than communities that said no. And that is long term. Michael McKinley, he is a technologist, 30 years of experience, and he works for Parks Canada, and I think he's going to do that and do a little science lesson on the water table and why, even if you live in town, you need to be concerned about this. Nobody's safe from this.
Hydrological table, the hydrological water cycle, and how the water is evaporated up into the air and then moves over the land, and clouds form, and all this life-giving water falls down onto the surface, percolates into the ground, and forms the underground aquifers that 64% of us use for our drinking water. And that's about it. The aquifers are, I don't think there have been a proper mapping of all the water aquifers in New Brunswick, but they're everywhere, and the streams and the rivers and the lakes and that underground aquifers are all connected, and we use that to sustain us. So that's about it. as far as water testing is concerned, I guess what that means is, in the hydro-fracking sense, is that before the seismic tests are started, the companies want to do water tests so that they can establish a baseline of what you have as far as the quality and quantity of your water before they come in and do their seismic testing. And then afterwards, they basically go through a whole another round of testing so that we can determine if there's been any change or not. So, and that whole same process will go through when, if they ever decide to start drilling, there would be probably, hopefully, another round of water testing for another range, with probably a lot more comprehensive range, because there's stuff down in the shale that is some pretty nasty stuff. And then what you'd have to do is, and then they put their wells in, and then there'd be another round of water testing to determine if there's been any change in your water. The geochemical testing is, I didn't really know what was involved with that, but I went to the SWN presentation in Rogersville, and yeah, I think it was Rogersville. And what they do is that they have these they drill down into the ground with some sort of rod or whatever, and then they put this piece of textile that is sensitive to hydrocarbons, and they leave it in there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they come back and extract it and send it to a lab, and then they can determine if there's, by their lab test, if there's a chance of there be hydrocarbons there. What they want to do is they have their big vibrosis trucks that come in that have a big plate on the bottom of them that drops down in the ground, and they send shock waves through the ground and record that on phones that they line up on the ground. And also they can do something that's called a shot hole, where they put an explosive charge into the ground and explode that and record the data in the trucks, and with the same purpose. It's trying to find the configuration and the profile of the reflected sound waves coming through the various layers of the various geological layers below. Hydraulic fracturing, Max, you're probably better at that than me. I'll give my little version of it, and then you can explain more to it, probably a lot more. Basically, hydraulic fracturing is different from all kinds of other oil and gas exploration, is that the well is sunk right down into the shale layer, which is about, in New Brunswick, is about a kilometer or 3 kilometers below the surface. And in New Brunswick, it's a little bit different from other shale layers, as ours is really, really thick. It's about 1 kilometer thick. And
wow.
So what they do is they take a whole bunch of water, and a lot of water, like somewhere between 5 to 8 million gallons of water per frac, which is laced with a bunch of chemicals and under pressure. And what they do is that they go down into the shale, and they go off at an angle, and they have what they call a fracture zone, where they explode along that line. They explode the shale to release the pockets of gas that are found in it. That's pretty basic. A ban is what I'm looking for, and that's a complete halt to shale gas exploration and development in New Brunswick. And the moratorium is what everybody's been, our government has been hinting that we should have while we're putting the proper regulations in place. Well, I guess that's up for debate. This industry has never been regulated. There's never been an independent and comprehensive environmental assessment done in the United States whatsoever, except for one that was commissioned by the Department of Environmental Protection for the state of New York, and which was used in a lawsuit that the Attorney General in New York is currently suing the federal government of the United States because the proper environmental assessment has never been done. And we are faced with that same scenario in New Brunswick and in Canada, where the provincial governments and the federal government have never commissioned an independent and comprehensive environmental assessment. So,
Gasland that was nominated for a number of awards. This film terrifies the industry. They have gone to great lengths to try and find problems with it. They say it's full of holes. What it is a story of what happens to people when this industry sets up in their neighborhoods, what it does to their property values, what it does to their environment. It's a sad story, and it's a story I certainly hope doesn't happen to us. Paul Melanson is going to talk about the Duke study.
Okay, before I start, I found this slide I wanted to share with you. I thought it was kind of a good slide. 60 years after hydraulic fracturing, research, technology, development, and experience, we can safely say that we know everything there is to know about hydraulic-created fractures, except how deep they penetrate, their vertical extent, their symmetries about the wellbore, whether they are planar or multi-stranded, their geometry at the perimeter, which direction they go, what their conductivities are. Other than that, we've got it down pretty packed. At the bottom, it says, but they make a lot of money. Well, we're going to talk about that later on, because you know what? Not so much. It's getting to be less and less economical. What I want to talk about now are two very, very key events. And I don't know if anybody's ever reading what I write. I've been writing a lot of editorials. Well, I keep pounding these two events because they're extremely significant. The first one was a university, I think in Carolina, the Duke University, did a study. This is a peer-reviewed study, okay? This is not a piece of crap study. Researchers tested water near gas wells, and they moved outward away from the gas wells. And I'm going to make this real simple. What they found was water wells near gas wells have high levels of methane. Water wells away from gas wells do not, like have lesser amounts of methane. They can't seal those wells. They say they can seal those wells, but they cannot seal those wells. That's one event. The next event we need to pay attention to is what happened in Quebec. Quebec invited these boys to come to their place and do some exploration. They drilled 31 wells in Quebec, exploratory wells. And the people of Quebec were kind of curious about how they made out that, okay? And information was not forthcoming, by the way. The people of Quebec had to go after it, after their government, to get that information. And the information they got was 19 of 31 wells were leaking methane. Like, that's well over half, isn't it? Is that like, they can't do it. That's not like 50 years ago. That's a fairly recent thing that happened. Well, the people of Quebec, when they heard about this, as French are wont to do, had a tantrum, and now they have a moratorium in Quebec. And I hope we have a tantrum here in New Brunswick pretty soon. Because that shut that right down.